This is the second extension of Activity 3, Fabulous Fish. And in this extension, what I'm doing is comparing the standard form of the equation, so ax plus by equals c, to the slope-intercept form of the equation, so y equals mx plus b. You should be able to use either form of the equations to figure out what the amount of tilapia is compared to the number of pounds of salmon. So I'm going to use these three ratios. A ratio of 1 to 1, so an equal number of pounds of tilapia and an equal number of pounds of salmon. A ratio of 1 to 3, so 1 pound of tilapia to 3 pounds of salmon, and a ratio of 2 to 3, 2 pounds of tilapia to 3 pounds of salmon. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to work down the standard form of the equation first, and then down that same column, I'm going to show you the slope-intercept form. And then the second column, work down that column using the standard form. And then I'm going to go to the slope-intercept form down that second column. And then the third column, standard form, and then the slope-intercept form. Now, when I compared the third column side by side, I ran into a problem. And we'll get to this a little bit later. But then I was able to resolve that problem. So let's go back to the beginning. And look at this ratio, an equal number of pounds of tilapia to an equal number of pounds of salmon. And working down the standard form of the equation, using the standard form of the equation. Now we've seen this before, so this is a little bit of review. If I have $8 to spend instead of $210, I walk into the store, I'm going to spend my $8. I'm going to buy 1 pound of tilapia and 1 pound of salmon. So for that 1 pound of tilapia, I have to pay $3. For that 1 pound of salmon, I have to pay $5. That's my $8 for 1 pound of each. Now, if I have $210, I can do, how many times can I go into the store and spend that $8? I can do that 26¼ times. So that's where the 26¼ pounds comes from. Every time I walk in and buy tilapia, that's 1 pound for my $3. Every time I walk in and buy salmon, that's 1 pound for my $5. I can do that 26¼ times. So I can purchase 26¼ pounds of tilapia, 26¼ pounds of salmon. So the price of all of that, $3 times the tilapia, $5 times the salmon, adds to that $210. All right, so what does the same situation, the same story look like using the slope-intercept form of the equation? So this is the standard form, and I'm going to rewrite this in the slope-intercept form. So I'm going to solve for y, this 5y right here. And remember, this is 3 times 1 pound of tilapia and 5 times 1 pound of salmon. So 1 pound, so y is equal to x. And so now, so going back to the slope-intercept form, I have 5y equals a negative 3x plus 210. Where does that come from? It's this 5y right here. And I'm going to add a negative 3x to this side. That's the additive inverse. I'm going to also add that negative 3x to the right side. So that's this negative 3x right here plus 210. And I have to now multiply. I need to figure out the value of y, or what y equals. So I multiply this times the multiplicative inverse, which is 1/5. So 1/5 of 5 is 1. So that's that y. And 1/5 of 210 is 42. So if you remember, this is the y-intercept, 42 pounds, and this is the slope, a negative 3/5. So continuing down, so y is equal to x, because there's an equal number of pounds. So now I can replace this y right here with x. So I can replace that with 1x. I want to use the 1 because I'm going to add fifths to this. So I'm going to add 3/5 x. That's the additive inverse of a negative 3/5 x. So I'm going to get rid of the negative 3/5 x on this side. I'm going to add that to the left side. So that's 1 plus 3/5, and all of that is an x. So remember that 1 is the same as 5/5. So 5/5 plus 3/5 is 8/5. So now I have 8/5 x equals 42. And so now I want to figure out what x is equal to, so I'm going to multiply by the multiplicative inverse of 8/5. Well, that's 5/8. And by the way, that's the same as multiplying 42 times 5 and getting this 210 right here, and then dividing by 8. So multiplying 42 times 5 and then dividing by 8. So that's the multiplicative inverse, also known as the reciprocal. So it's 5/8 times 42. And so 8 times 42 is 210. 210 divided by 8 is that 26¼ pounds. And we know that y is equal to x, so y is also 26¼ pounds. Got a little bit convoluted here, sorry about that. Just keep thinking through it. You're multiplying by the multiplicative inverse or the reciprocal. So you can view that as multiplying by 5 and then dividing by 8. All right, the second column. So now I have 1/4 of the total number of pounds in tilapia and 3/4 of the total number of pounds in salmon. So this y now, this is 5 times y. This is going to become 3x in the standard form of the equation. And that's going to add together, and I'm going to look at spending $18 at a time. So you see where that 18 comes from in just a moment. So now I'm going to rewrite this using the slope-intercept form. So I have $3 per 1 pound of tilapia and $5 per 1 pound of salmon, but that's times 3, because I'm going to buy 3 pounds of salmon and 1 pound of tilapia. So 3 pounds, $3 per 1 pound plus $15 per 3 pounds. So $15, it cost me $15 to purchase 3 pounds of salmon. Now we've been through this before. Actually, I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. This is all the standard form of the equation. All right, so I'm going to spend a total of $18 to get 4 pounds of fish. $18 buys me 1 pound of tilapia and 3 pounds of salmon. So how many times can I do that? I can do that 11 2/3 times. And so 1 pound times 11 2/3 is going to be 11 2/3 pounds of tilapia, and 3 pounds times 11 2/3 is going to be 35 pounds of salmon. Figure out the cost of each, add them together, and you get that same 210 pounds. Now let's look at that using the slope-intercept form. So the slope-intercept form is y equals a negative 3/5 x plus 42. We got that over here. Same equation. So now I'm moving it over here, but now remember that y is equal to 3x. So here's y, and that's equal to 3 times the amount of x. So y equals 3x. So that has a slope actually of 3. So y is equal to 3x. So 3x now equals a negative 3/5 x plus 42. This is the slope of this line. Actually, there's 2 different equations here. There's y equals 3x, and there's y equals a negative 3/5 x plus 42. So 2 different equations. So 3 times x. So what I'm going to do to figure out what the value of x is I'm going to add the additive inverse of a negative 3/5 x to here. That's going to get rid of this negative 3/5 x, but I'm going to add it to this side. So I'm adding 3/5 x to this side. Well, 3 plus 3/5 is 3 3/5, and they're all x's. So 3 3/5 x equals 42. Change this to all fifths. Multiply by the multiplicative inverse, that's 5/18. So notice what's going to happen now. You're going to multiply 5 times 42 is that 210. And you're going to divide 210 by that same 18. So you're answering the same question as before. How many times can I go in and spend $18? 11 2/3 times. But this time, using this equation, it actually equals 11 2/3 pounds. So y is equal to 3 times that amount. So it's 3 times 11 2/3 pounds equals 35 pounds. And figure out the price of each of those. And it comes out to equal, again, that $210. This equals the $210. So $3 times 11 2/3 pounds is $35, and $5 times 35 pounds is $175. Yeah, $35 and $175. All right, so using a different ratio, 2/5 of the total number of pounds tilapia, 3/5 total number of pounds of salmon, working through the same idea. This is the standard form of the equation that we looked at before. So I'm going to walk into that store with $21. I'm going to buy 2 pounds. That's going to cost me $3 of tilapia. I'm going to buy 3 pounds of salmon. That's going to cost me $15 for the salmon. And so I'm going to spend $21. How many times can I do that? I can do that 10 times. $210 divided by that $21. So 2 pounds of tilapia, 3 pounds of salmon every time. I can do that 10 times. So this is 2 pounds times 10 is 20 pounds of tilapia. 3 pounds times 10 is 30 pounds of salmon. So figure out the cost and you get that $210. So this is just a very quick review. But now let's use the slope-intercept form of this ratio of 2/5 of the number of pounds is tilapia and 3/5 is salmon. So this is the slope-intercept form right here. This is the same as over here and the same as right here. But now if you use this equation right here, this is the relationship between y and x from this ratio. So for every 2 units that you move along the x-axis, you increase along the y-axis 3 units. So that ratio is 3 to 2. So y is equal to 3 halves x, that ratio of 3 to 2. So now you can replace y with 3 halves x. So here's y right down here, and we replaced it with 3 halves x. So now you have 3 halves x equals a negative 3/5 x plus 42. And it's not really that bad. So I'm going to add 3/5 x to both sides. That's the additive inverse of a negative 3/5 x. So here's the 3/5, and that's an x out here. And this is 3 halves, and that's that same x. So 3/5 plus 3 halves. So you have to get a common denominator of 10. So that's 6/10 plus 15/10. All of that times x equals 42. So now you have 21/10 x equals 42. And so x, you multiply by the multiplicative inverse of 21/10, which is the reciprocal of 21/10. So now you're multiplying 42 times 10 and dividing by 21. So 10 times 42 divided by 21. Actually, 42 divided by 21 is 2. 2 times 10 is 20. So x is equal to 20 pounds, and y is 3 halves of 20. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. 3 times 10 gives you this 30. So you figure out the cost of those, and you're going to end up with $210. All right, let's do that last one side by side, because that gets a little bit tough. So you have y equals a negative 3 halves x plus 42. This is the slope-intercept form. And so remember that y is equal to 3x. I'm going to replace this y with 3x, and x is 2x. So I'm going to replace this x right here with 2x. I'm going to fix this later. I really shouldn't have 2 symbols meaning different things. So I'll fix that a little bit later. So now we have 3x is equal to 2x, and that's times a negative 3/5. This is the slope. So that's negative 6/5 x. So now this is just a little bit of algebra that we're working through here. Plus 42, this is the y-intercept. So now I can add 6/5 x to each side. That's the additive inverse. So now it's 3x plus 6/5 x equals 42. Change everything to fifths so I can add these together. So that's 15/5 plus 6/5. That equals 42. So now we have 21/5 equals 42. And we get down to here where 5 times 42 is 210. And 21x equals 210. So how many times can I spend that $21? I can spend that $21 10 times. 210 divided by 21 equals 10. But now you have to remember that up here, 2x is equal to this 1x right here. And I'm going to fix that soon. So 2x is 20 pounds and 3x is 30 pounds. So in this equation, x is 20 pounds and y is 30 pounds. And I started to run into that problem when I looked at it this way. So I looked at the ratio. Y to x is 3 to 2, comes from right here. Y to x is 3 to 2. So y is equal to 3/2 x. So this y right here is going to be 3/2 of whatever this value of x is. So y equals 3/2 x. So let's use that on this side. So y is equal to 3/2 x. So I can replace y with 3/2 x. A little bit different than what we did over here. And that equals a negative 3/5 x plus 42. So now I'm going to add that negative 3/5 x to both sides. So that's the additive inverse. I'm making this 0, and I'm adding 3/5 x to the left side. Now I have halves and fifths. So I want to change those to tenths, the common denominator. So this is 15 tenths. 3/2 is 15 tenths. 3/5 is 6 tenths. So now I'm down to this 21x equals 420. Over here it was 21x equals 210. This is where I ran into a problem. I didn't quite understand what was going on. So if you figure out the math, x equals 20 pounds, which makes sense. This x equals 20 pounds and y equals 30 pounds. Y is 3/2 of x. So why is it that x equals 20 pounds here and 2x equals 20 pounds here? It's because we replace this single x up here with 2x. So in order to see that, I came up with one more problem, a different ratio, but I didn't want to use a ratio where x was 1. I want to use a ratio where x was at least 2x or something other than that. So I used a ratio of 4/3. So 4 pounds of salmon for every 3 pounds of tilapia. I'm not going to work through this, but the point is I changed this x to be a big X. So we're going to make that big X 3 smaller x's. So 3x and y is 4x here. So you're going to have a total of 7. Well, actually you have to work through it. This becomes a negative 9/5. Work through that math and you're going to get down to here where x is going to equal 210 divided by 29. Using these ratios, you walk in the store with $29. You buy 3 pounds of tilapia. That costs you $9. You have $20 left, and that will get you 4 pounds of salmon. So 210, how many times can you do that? You can do that 7 24/100 times. So that's 3 times 7 24/100. That gives you 21 72/100 pounds. And then the cost, and 4 times 7 24/100 give you 28 96/100 pounds. And the cost, and that all adds up to 4 cents less than $210. A little bit of rounding error there. So over here, the slope y is equal to 4/3 x in the proportional relationship. So I can replace this y with 4/3 x. And then working through the algebra, you get down to here where 29x equals 630 instead of 29x equals 210. Because now this x is truly x. It's this big X over here. So 29x equals 630, x equals 21 7/200 pounds, same as over here, and y equals 28 9600 pounds, same as over here. A little bit tough,